Do, 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 do. All right, let's bring Mike on. Let's do this.
Hey!
There he is. Woo!
My
How's
lighting.
it going, dude? What's terrible?
My lighting. Turn that window open. That window a little bit. You can see a little better. How y'all doing?
Living the dream, man.
I love it.
It's nice to see you again. So for the people who don't know, can you just introduce yourself? Tell people who you are and what you do.
My name's Mike Woods. I went under the artist name Falcon Toys, and I haven't made anything in a while, but the stuff I did make, people seem to like it all right. So that's it. That's pretty much me.
that is very modest.
Thank you.
Janky here was saying how much you inspired him to create toys, and
oh, that's awesome.
And I was telling everyone earlier that it was, I think, you and Skip Bro who sort of started at the same time that sort of pushed me over the edge, because I was collecting psychedelic stuff, from the start, about 2005, and
right.
As other artists sort of got involved, I was resistant at first, as most collectors are, to start something new that is going to just mushroom into like a whole, house full of more shit to buy.
Exactly.
And it was really seeing your work that really, I don't know how else to say it, except it literally, like, I took the plunge, because not having that stuff, it was just too cool. And
well, thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
And it didn't, when Killer Bootlegs first came out, I remember talking to the Suck Lord, and he didn't know how to feel about it. Right. There was a little bit of insecurity. I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but and Killer Bootlegs got a ton of shit. Like, people hated him. Right. And they're like, you were a Suck Lord ripoff, right? As if there's only one person who could express themselves in the form of a resin toy, right?
Right.
And then by the time I saw your work, it was someone who was doing it so differently that you realized that this medium could actually be open to people with completely different voices and different points of view, and doing completely, different kind of work. And now it's like, this is just, and he's come around also, and people have come around on Killer Bootlegs, obviously, and no one confuses the two, right? It's
sure,
like you don't confuse Norman Rockwell and Picasso just because they use a brush. It's like, so I think seeing your early work, I think it was the pinball R2D2. I think that was the gumball R2D2, not pinball. Sorry.
Like,
here we go.
Little guy right here.
That guy right there. And that was, and the packaging for it, the painting that was on the card. And then what did you use? Are those just like sprinkles in the resin?
Yeah, it's sprinkles to make. I can't
little like donut, like sprinkles that like my kids eat. Like, it just, I saw that and I was like, holy shit. And not only that, I don't want to say you started me, but you were one of the first. I have a huge collection of, bootleg Garbage Pail Kids.
Yes.
And not bootleg like people just reprinting stuff, but artists, designers, companies, creators using Garbage Pail Kid themes in their work. And you made a Falcon Toys sticker of Ash Can Andy, which is my favorite Garbage Pail Kid, as that.
Yes, that was like mine too.
As that gumball R2D2. And I remember I had one, I put it in a box. And then once I realized that this was a thing and I wanted to get them all into one place, I remember digging through everything, looking for that sticker to try and get them all like in one place. I only had like 5 or 10, examples at the time. But that was, so you were at the nexus of like these two things that I collect that have absolutely consumed my life, and fuck you.
I took hard-earned money out of people's hands. I don't know why. It was a dark time.
So talk to us about your early experience in resin making toys. What inspired you? How did you start? How did you learn how to make resin?
The first time I saw it was actually a Killer Bootlegs piece, and I have it. It's actually hanging. I have a whole nother room full of Star Wars stuff. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and it was I think it was just a mutant Jawa, and what he had done, like early, as soon as you get into bootleg, making pieces, typically the first thing you do is a head swap, right? Like it's like, okay, I got this body, this head, it's a thing, and that's kind of the first thing. This was an early one of his pieces, and it was the body of a Jawa, but he had Yoda's arms and legs, and man, it looks so cool. And it was like a real, I couldn't understand. You see it, you're just like, I think I was at a Star Wars celebration or something, and I'm looking for something on the phone, and I'm like, see this picture, I'm like, what is this? When did this come out? Who makes this? And I, learned a little bit about it. So obviously that was his early stuff, and he went with like an Art 2, I think was like the spray can R2D2. He did. I have artwork for it, kind of off camera there, somewhere along the lines. We traded some stuff. So that the Killer Bootlegs was actually my first inspiration. That I was like, wow, you can make these toys. And so then I just kind of got on YouTube, and I learned we're going to make molds and pour resin and that sort of thing. And then I learned really quickly that anything that was tiny, like fingertips or a nose or anything, or ears, stuff like that, would catch those air bubbles, and it would just look really bad. And other people that were trying to jump in at the time, early on, what I feel like was still pretty early on when this was going on. I'm sure Sucklord had done it a little bit longer than everybody else at that point, but I'd see these air bubbles popping up, and then I'd made some stuff, and I was like, well, it can't look like that. It just can't look like that's not a toy with these huge flaws in them. That's my own personal thing. That's a differing opinion, obviously. So I got I got a pressure pot from Harbor Freight, and that's how I got into it, and just did the research. And then every time I made something, I wanted it to be better than the last thing. So it was like, okay, the first things I made were just like a solid piece. And then I was like, well, no one's really making their arms and legs move. And everybody's like, well, why would you even do that? You can't take them off and play with them. And it's like, I know, but it's still, I want to progress. I don't want to stay doing the same thing. So then I started working on making each individual part and making their arms and legs move. And then the first time I glue it onto a package, and I'm like, okay, there was a static thing in there I worked really hard on, and no one's ever going to move its arms. And I was like, well, now I got to make packaging that you can open up, play with the toy, and then be able to put it back in, and everybody's happy again. So then I came up with those kind of clamshell packaging to where you can pull the figure out, move his arms and legs, head, put a gun in his hands, pose him. And when you're tired of playing with him, you put them all back, hang it on your wall, or you can just do whatever you want with it. You have options. And so by the time I was doing that, it was like Boscow, up there, and these Crossbreed and Return of the Tar Martian, and that Insectodroid. I'd moved into just basing my card backs to fit in my proprietary clamshells that I had made. And there you go. That was about where. Now I still want to do some static stuff too, but that's kind of where I dipped off and started doing some other stuff.
Nice. So had you, to go from not knowing how to do it to putting out pieces of that quality and craftsmanship, did you have a background? Were you always doing creative stuff? Did you want to do creative stuff when you were a kid? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be creative. When you're a kid, it's like, I'm always going to play with toys. And you say that, and your parents are like, whatever. And then you go through a little stage where maybe you didn't play with toys, but eventually you start playing with toys again, right? It's a way, I don't know, it's a generational thing. I don't know what it is, but that's where we're at. So that was it. I had this huge Star Wars collection. Once you collect all the vintage stuff, and then there's these little time periods where they either didn't make something, you're making a custom figure. So I made custom figures pretty early on before I knew that I mean, most of the time is you're just, butchering old beat up figures and repainting them and stuff like that. But yeah, I was always creative. I was telling a story earlier today, but I was poor and I wanted to be Freddy Krueger for Halloween, and I could afford the mask, but that was about it. So I had to make the glove out of corn dog sticks and tin foil and an old glove. You know what I mean? So, it's a poor kid thing, I guess. You're making your own toys. So I don't know.
But did you, growing up, I mean, did you want to be an artist? Like, is that stuff that you pursued?
Yeah.
What'd you study growing up?
I think I was one of those kids that I didn't know where I wanted like anybody, I wanted something fun and easy that I would love doing. And
Mhm.
I can tell you, just having a full-time job when I was doing this, I would wake up at like 4 a.m. and pour resin and paint and stuff, and then I go to work, and then I'd come home at night and pull stuff out of the pot, and I'd take some of it to work if I could and clean it. So I mean, it was just I absolutely love doing it. I wish I had the time to do it now, or really get after it.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, though, I mean, I don't know. It was like I want to be a soldier. I want to be in the NBA, and I never got fast. I never got that. I mean, I got not tall enough.
Right.
Shot was never that good. That sort of thing. So I think you just kind of grow up, but to be an artist would be amazing. And the first time said, "You're an artist," I said, "No, I'm not." I was like, I just didn't feel that way. It just, But then you look back, and some of the pieces I did, I really like them. I really love some uh, and it was kind of a weird. Again, there's a competitive nature in me where I was these toy awards and stuff would come along. I'm like, man, I want to get nominated for something. That'd be fun. So you just kind of have to work harder when you want to go a little further, So I did.
Sure.
It
And
was
then
fun.
I think the one that got the most attention at the end, but it was so much work. I think that might have been the final, you know, project that like pushed you over the edge, was the Slimer the Hut.
Oh yeah, that one was fun. There was a
That
lot
was
of
the Slimer the Hut. Like, for anyone who's watching, I mean, it wasn't carded; it was in a box, and the box was insane itself. You'd open it up with the illustrations and the cutouts, and then the piece itself was the throne with sort of like a Slimer head. You have one of those handy?
yeah. Give me a second. I'll grab one really quick.
Right. It's just it's worth it.
I think the box looked like the
Yeah.
Java
It
box.
was insane. I still bug the guy who did the illustration on there to sell me the art. He's just like, I try. Could have sold 1,000 of these things.
That's what he looked like. He had
Look at that.
little arms. I don't know how good he looks on camera.
Amazing.
He had little terror dog heads for the.
The terror dog heads for
That was
the
the dais.
gargoyles. Yeah.
Like the little artwork, the eyes and the mouth and everything. There's a lot of paintwork on this guy, or just to get the green and the cracks to make it look right. It's a pain. But look cool.
Unbelievable.
I don't think I have a box around. This one's just like on a shelf in another room.
So these projects that you did, what year was it that your first toy came out?
Ooh. I think it was 2014, 2015, right in there.
And then what year was the Slimer the Hut? That was your last project?
About 2017, like right there at the end. I think it was up for some sort of toy thing for
yeah, I think you got nominated for a DTA for that.
Yeah, there they are. Old
It's
DTA
like,
badges back there.
he's like, oh, look at that in back of me.
I hang everything on my wall. I hang it all on our wall.
It's kind of crazy. It's like not having an official like art background and just coming into the scene and being there for such a short time, like being active for like 3 or 4 years and producing this crazy body of work that everyone just sort of idolizes, and then you're like, see ya.
Well, I had another dream pop up. So
Yeah.
I was like, it's hard to be what's the saying? It's hard to be a slave to two masters or something like that. I don't know
Sure. So
what that
what?
crazy.
Tell us about the other dream. Tell us
So
what.
I wanted to,
Tell us why we don't get cool toys from you anymore.
why am I denying the world of all this crazy resin goodness? So I wanted to own an arcade, and in the summer of 2017, I won an auction for this big aliens machine that I was actually working on earlier today. I don't know if you can see how black my hands are here. That was also pinball dust too. But anyway, it was broke. I was wondering why I was getting it so cheap. I was like, oh, there's 3 of them, and 2 of them went for $1,500. I got this for like $500. This is great. And sure enough, it was broke. And I won this giant NASCAR that was like big as a Honda Civic. It moved and everything. And my wife's like, what are you moving into our garage? And what is this crazy stuff? Fixed the NASCAR that night. And then about 6 days later, I had the aliens machine running. And I was like, wow, I could buy all these things broken. And then I would force myself to learn to work on them. And I could open up an arcade. So I sit down and wrote out a plan. I was like, all right, if I spend like $500 a month, and after 3 years, I should open the summer of 2020. So I built out a plan that I was going to, from 2017 to 2020, I was going to collect arcade games, repair them, restore them, and I'm going to open up hell or high water summer of 2020. And that's where I've been. That's what I did. So, and now we're 13
amazing.
months in, and it's pretty cool. So,
Wow. And what's the place called? And where's it located?
Electric Starship Arcade. We have
Wow.
a YouTube, a Facebook, all this stuff. So,
And so you're fixing all the games yourself. Did you have a background in that?
no, I
You
went to
just said
idiot school. YouTube.
you
I went to YouTube. I got a
you ju-
diploma from idiot school.
you're just the fucking genius that just decides to do. Are you gonna decide to build a rocket to Mars next? And
No,
because
I don't like
it's
those
kind of insane, like what you just decide to do. Put your mind to it, go figure out how to do it, and then do it.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's kind of, I mean, when I joke about, living the dream and stuff like that, but that's kind of like, master of your own destiny kind of shit. Like,
I'm trying, man. It's a
and so how many video
it's
games
a
do you
tough
have now?
road, but I'm trying. What's that?
How many video games in the place now?
A little over 100.
Wow. And are you there at the office?
No, I came home to do
Oh,
this too.
you
You
came
wouldn't be
home.
able to hear me in there. It's like it's crazy.
I mean, there are people in there right now, just like,
Yeah, my wife and one of my new guys I hired is in there running it right now. But yeah, there's a birthday party going on. They rented out the party room. There's probably 50, 60 people in there when I left. So
just pop in their quarters. And is it still quarters? Or are you doing the cards?
no, I did a set to free format. So basically, you pay $10 at the door, and all the games are already set to free. So
Uh-huh.
and we serve beer. You can come in and or soda or hot dogs and nachos and all that good stuff. So you can just come in and drop your $10 at like noon and stay all day if you want to. And
Yep.
or you can buy a month pass. We offer a month pass, and people
For
come in.
$10, you get to stay there all day. Like,
Yeah,
why
you
didn't they
come
have
in
that
and
model
you-
when I was a kid?
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Too. Like, I get a lot of people that come in. It's like, you know what? I always wanted to beat X-Men, but I never had enough money, or
Uh-huh.
The Simpsons, or House of the Dead, and then they'll like, but today I got to see the ending because they just sat there and just kept hitting the button until they made it to the end. So
Wow. And does that put excessive wear on the machine? Someone playing it for 5 hours or anything?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's okay because you're gonna fix it.
That's right. I'm there. So we were talking about that earlier. I was like, man, if I'm not there and stuff, man, they just there's weeks go by where nothing breaks, but then they all get together at night. It's like, was that movie Mannequin, or maybe a Twilight Zone episode where the mannequins are alive at night? I don't know.
Right.
They don't break like individually. They all get together and break on the same day. So
Of course. Because wasn't there, I remember like when I was a kid, watching on TV the guy who would like crack the pattern on Pac-Man and got it, scored the highest whatever, and there was no end, but he could only play until the wires melted on the machine. So it was like after like 8 or 9 hours, 2 wires sort of melted and fused together, and then
right.
the machine stopped working.
There's
So
a screen you get to. I think it's the 255th level on Pac-Man. It's called a kill screen, and
Uh-huh.
the game runs out of memory to rebuild the map. So you start getting this, I don't want to say Matrix again, but you start getting
because you'll get in
this
trouble.
kind of
though.
raining these kind of raining number things on one side of the screen. So it's kills the game. Donkey Kong just locks up if you play it too long. So
Wow. And then what happens? Like you unplug it, plug it back in, and it's working again?
yep. Turn it off and on, and that guy gets to walk away a genius. Like, oh look,
The
I
guy a
broke this
trophy.
thing. That's pretty much it.
Wow. That's amazing. So what was your like the inspiration for the figures that you did make? How did those come about? Like
So when I first started off, this is going to date the time period for you guys a little bit. So when I first started off, I was making a line of them called Breaking Baddies was the and that was when I was making just like static figures. It was totally head swaps and, you know, just one like crystally looking color would splatter some paint on it. It had
those were mostly clear figures.
yeah, they were like that translucent different paint colors. And then like, you know, I'd get all this different, I'd buy a bunch of different paints from Monster Color or a bunch of different resin filaments and things like that to put together. But I had like a series going. So if you read like the backs of the cards, I made figures called Breaking Baddies. So obviously I had just finished watching Breaking Bad. So that can tell you the time period of where this was. So then all my Star Wars themed figures were like drug dealers or just like stuff, they were in the underground drug world, and they always had some kind of dumb
as one does, right?
And put on that, yeah, like Gumball's really like you turn the crank and he's popping pills out, right? Like he's a drug dealer, like so, and there was like Death Vapor and just whatever. Yazoo, I think, was like Uze spelled backwards or something stupid. So I was just kind of putting all that together, and then I don't know if it was you or somebody wanted me to do something different or special or put something for. Maybe it was to put something at the Clutter Gallery, or I don't remember. But then I started kind of venturing out of that line that I was making up as I went, and that's when I started getting a little more intricate with the parts moving, and I experimented with magnets in their arms, a little bit. Didn't I make like Buttface in Space, and that was a Comic-Con?
Janky's, yeah.
So that one
Janky says that's a top 5 figure for him.
Thank you. So I mean, it was one of those things where I just had like a little, I think it was the lid off of like a perfume bottle or something, and I was like, well, that looks like an astronaut helmet, and then you just kind of work your way backwards from there. But his arms move, and that was like one of the first figures I made. I spent so long getting the magnets, like these little earth magnets, to make the arms move, and then I went glued it on the thing. I went, well, that's not cool. Why did I do all this?
Nice.
Anyway, that's why I came up with the other thing. So the early inspiration, I guess, was like Breaking Bad, and I liked the paint jobs on. I don't know if you remember, like you could get them in old, gumball machines or quarter machines where they were like little finger puppets, and they were rubber, and they'd be like all green with like a splatter of orange paint on them, and they had little mouths. And anyway, I liked that paint. And then some of the old kaiju monsters, like from the 60s and 70s, they would literally be like one color and just like spray right across them. So
sure,
that was a little bit inspirational too. I like that stuff. And then, obviously the resin artists that were already going at that point, which I think was more, Sucklord and Killer Bootlegs. Those were some of the earlier ones that I just was like, wow, okay, that's really cool stuff. So
I remember you did another one for us. It was like Mars Attacks inspired.
Oh yeah. Was it Return of the Tar Martian or Crossbreed?
Return of the Tar Martian, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I had the Tar Man, which he's right there, and I saw like the paint colors on him. I thought it was really, really cool. Right there, like Tar Man from Return of the Living Dead. It's really hard to do in reverse. There it is. Anyway, I saw the paint colors and I was like, oh, I can match those paint colors. I can do that. I'll do this. And then I just made the Tar Martian. There you go. And I wanted, and this is one of those ones that were on my, that had the really cool, like these little, you take them out and play with them. Like his arms and legs and everything moved. So pretty neat.
Look at that.
He's got the,
I still want that illustration from Buttface in Space.
I've still never found it. I know you've been asking me for that for years. I just don't know where it is.
One
Which
day,
drives me crazy. I've torn this place apart looking for it.
probably just like drew on the back of it and threw it out.
And maybe. No, I keep like if you could see around here, it's like hoarding. It's terrible. So it's gotta be. If I ever find it, it's yours for sure.
So you've always been a collector?
Yeah, speaking of garbage pail kids earlier, my grandmother caused this issue in my life. So I remember at garbage pail kids like in the early mid 80s. And at school, you're just trading them. Like, I want this one, you can have this one. I want this one. And my grandmother was like, "What are you doing? You're doing this wrong. You only trade your doubles. You keep everything else." Oh, I've been doing this wrong. So then you open a pack, get your doubles, take your doubles to school, trade, get stuff you don't have, and you just stack that collection. And that's where it started.
She did you a disservice or like?
She totally ruined my life. Burn in hell. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if she did me a disservice, but she definitely caused the collector in me for sure. And I got a ton of. I don't ever like. My wife's like, "We're gonna move to a new house one day." I'm like literally, I don't know what I'll do. Like I was doing like months of packing things. That sounds horrible. So.
And are you're still collecting new stuff?
I do, not as heavily though, just because I'm so busy all the time up at the arcade. But the mostly Star Wars stuff, unless I just see something really cool. Like it's funny. We set one of my regulars actually off camera here, but I sat down. I was like, "Hey, I got this box. What's in it?" And I was like, "Oh, cool. These are cool Super 7 alien stuff.
Look at that.
Badass." I was like, I don't even remember what I buy. And I was like, "Oh, look. There's some Phantom Star Killers. Look how awesome, I was like, but I literally bought this box, opened it up, and set it in here, and that's the last of it.
And it's sat there for the last 2 years, right?
Yeah. So I don't even know how old those are. When did those come out? I have no idea. So anyway,
a couple of years.
Yeah. So they're a couple of years. Yeah. When I got to doing the arcade, I'm just up there all the time. So now there's games that have to be restored, and I'm still buying them broken and restoring them. So a lot of the other hobbies are I have time to buy stuff occasionally. Who I collect as far as the this bootleg artist who I like steady collect is Healy Made, like those Star Wars wrestling figures.
Yeah,
damn near every one of them. When those come out, I buy one every time, and those I have a little space in my Star Wars room that I put them in. So yeah, those I'm super fan of those.
Those are quite a problem.
Yeah. Those are our problem because I buy every
even like the multiple colorways.
Only for the IG Baba, the IG88 one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have multiple colorways of him. Everybody else, I try to have just like the Kenner colorway if I can. I think I bought maybe a couple Boba Fett's, just different color ones, but mostly that IG Baba. I don't know why. He made some really like a Hulk colorway. I was like, well, I gotta have that. They made one Apollo Creed from Rocky. I was like, well, I gotta have that. Stupid problems, add to it.
Wow.
Healy Made, stop abusing your power, sir. Awesome.
Yeah, he just started with those vinyl toys and from Japan, and then he texted me. He's like, "Hey, you want these? It's like new colorway." I'm like, okay.
Okay, yeah. Here's a new colorway. It's green. You can have all that. So
yeah,
get it. That's what I want to do. If when I start making toys again, which hopefully
when you start
when I start making toys again.
Okay, I liking where this is going. Got it.
I have a really cool sculpt done. Like it's done. Just need to get my ass in here. I can't send my wax copies off. It's got multiple heads. One of the heads has like these little chin things, and they got a little damage when I was taking some pictures of it. So I need to get someone to fix that for me, because I'm not that. There's a limit to the artistic value that is still in my bones here. So I'll need some help with that. But I need to get in here and cast the parts and get them sent off and get this damn thing made, because it's beautiful and sitting in a box, and it's just boxes collecting dust. So yeah, that's what I would like to do next.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. I really do. It'd be
the
neat.
Return of Falcon Toys.
The return. Yeah, that would be awesome. So
That's what
I need to
that's
make
what you
some
could.
old stuff too. I got tons of molds and stuff all around me, that just need some pouring, and some painting.
Well, you let us know.
Absolutely.
We're all anxiously awaiting. Well, I want to thank you for the time. It's really been wonderful.
Hey, thank you guys.
You've really
I appreciate y'all, man. Yeah,
been an inspiration to all of us. And
well, y'all are keeping a really badass, I don't know what even call it, hobby. It's just really fun. Y'all keep that alive, and anything I could do, if I wish I had more time, man, I would be in it hardcore too, because I just absolutely love it. And I love seeing all the new artists and everything that they're putting out too, so.
well, maybe one day you'll get bored of video games and you'll be like,
I know. One day maybe. They wear you out. I mean, it's like anything, but I don't have to work at, a job wearing a suit and all that other fun stuff anymore. I'm
but you
shorts
did
and a
that.
t-shirt until I die.
But
So,
you did that for a long time, correct?
yeah. I worked for Audi, and I had to wear a suit, and then, it's really hard to, I mean, it worry. It's the soul sucking, I was tired of working for the car business. I don't like working for people. I work for myself. So, I'd love to just sit at home and either make toys or sit in an arcade and fix those. So that's what I did. So
Awesome. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate it. Good luck with everything.
thank you. Falcon, I want to do I want to be the second smartest artist on today.
Oh, yes.
So,
Go ahead.
So Falcon Toys, not a whole lot of stuff getting posted on that, but I have that on Instagram and Facebook. But if you are interested in old video games and silly going out and playing video games, that sort of stuff, go to our YouTube. It's Electric Starship Arcade. So there you go. It's really fun to watch. So give it a thumbs up, give it a like, or whatever they do.
Nice. We sure will. Thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate you wanting me on. So that's awesome.
Awesome. It's great having you. Take care of yourself.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Wow. True genius.